When it comes to Latin tunes, it's going to be pretty much the same way as how you would do it with a rock style. The only difference is straightforward, but with a little bit of feel to it. Now, I'm not saying in rock music that there is no feel to it. Of course there is. But with Latin music, it just has its unique, different style to it that distinguishes it compared to swing style. As you can see, some of the symbols have changed so far when it comes to Latin. In this case, the quarter note is made with a little bit of a right triangle happening there. In this case, it just recommends that you use on the crown ride of the cymbal, or in this case, use the crown part of the ride cymbal. Snare, in this case, notice how there's an X right there. It could be used as an auxiliary note in concert band, but since we're playing in jazz band, that X is going to stand as the rim shot of the snare, and we'll get into that a little bit more closely once we get to the drum area. We already know bass stays the same, hi-hat is always going to be the same, and right up here the RMT just stands for right mounted tom. And of course, when it comes to Latin tunes, we like to recommend that the snare be off in this case.
Now, using the basic Latin rhythm that we were just showing you guys earlier, we have the counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and so think about different syllables that you would like to use with your students or use with yourself to help you kind of understand a little bit better of what you're about to play. In this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, and think about a syllable that's like boom, shot, boo, boom, shot, boom, boom, shot, boom, boom, shot, boom, The boom is going to happen right on the bass, as we all know. The sha happens on the hi-hat and on the snare, rim-wise. And then, of course, the is going to happen on our right-mounted tom, which is right here. Boom, sha, boom, boom, sha, boom, boom, sha, boom, sha. Now, since this is an advanced video that we're going to get you guys into, we're going to try and see if we can get ourselves right into it. But of course, for those that do need to be broken down a little bit, we'll also show you too on what you can do to wean yourself into playing a basic Latin tune. So if we were to include all that rhythm that we just showed you guys earlier, this is what it would somewhat sound like. At this tempo, 5, 6, here we go, 2, ready, and... very slow Latin tune, but the more and more you just keep practicing at a slower tempo, the more you'll be able to gradually speed it up, and it will start getting it into that tune to where everyone can start dancing. Your jazz band will just be able to go crazy with it. So now, let's go ahead and break down what we just did right now. First, let's start off with our bass drum, working our way into crash, hi-hat and snare again, using our ride and mounted tom afterwards. So, bass drum, hi-hat, snare, ride, and fourth will be with our right mounted tom. So, think about that tempo that we want to use. Stay at this tempo, so 1 and 3 with the bass drum. Here we go. Now, once again, you want to wean yourself into it. So that's 1 and 3. Now think about 2 and 4. 2 and 4 is going to be with the hi-hat and the snare. So let's go ahead and use the hi-hat first. So, now, how are we able to do the snare part, since we know we saw an X earlier on that? How are we going to be able to do the snare while not hitting it? In this case, what you want to do, take the butt of the stick with your grip already. Take the butt of the stick, place it right in the center of your snare, just like so. And all you're doing is just weighing down with the palm of your hand the butt of the stick. So all you have to do is just pick up the stick, with leverage from the palm of your hand, lifting up with your fingers, and then bring down the entire body of the stick on top of the metal rim of the snare. And it gives you that sound. So, we were put that together with the hi-hat. This is what it sounds like. But of course, remember, we're only doing that snare hit only on count 2. Very good. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is put that all together. Bass drum first. Here we go. 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 3, 1, 3. Now we're going to add the hi-hat and the snare. 5, 6, 7 here. Now, moving on to number 3, using our ride cymbal. Now notice with the ride cymbal what it said earlier in the rhythm that I showed you. We're not actually playing it on the outside of the ride. We're actually going to be playing it on the crown area right here. Remember that the crown area of the ride confines the sound. Doesn't really make it as sustainable as playing outside. No, when you play on the crown, it sounds more controlled. So now let's see if we can incorporate all together now. So bass, hi-hat, snare into the ride. Remember that the ride will only be played 3 times, 3 quarter notes, and then count 4, it is off. So here we go, 5, 6, 7, bass on count 1 and 3. Now we're gonna add hi-hat on 2 and 4, and a 5, 6, 7, and. Now remember your grip, and on the snare, 5, 6, 7 here. Now here we go, right cymbal, ready, and. Now, last but not least, adding the right mounted tom. Now remember that the right mounted tom is also going to be used with your right hand. So you're going to have to switch between ride cymbal and your right tom. In this case, we should have something that sounds like so. So, educators, if you find yourself at a situation where the student is kind of being uncoordinated with, oh, I can do my bass and I can do my hi-hat and my snare, but somehow I can't go with my right hand from my right cymbal to my right tom, that's fine too. All you have to do is just do the same exact method, but instead of concentrating too much on this, since you already know that their left area is going to be just fine, then concentrate on the right, kind of what I just did. Have them do 3 counts, 1, 2, 3. And then count 4 is going to be right on the right mounted tom. And just have them repeat that back and forth. So now, let's go ahead and do the breakdown method. Let's do everything together now. So starting off with our bass drum, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're going to add hi-hat and snare. Hi-hat first, here we go, and. Adding the snare now, and 5, 6, here we go. Adding the right, here we go, 2, ready, and. Adding the right mounted tom, here we go. And there we have it. That's the breakdown method. In the next video that you're going to see on this advanced link, you'll see how we can take this same basic Latin tune and speed it up using our metronome, and we'll also go into a bossa nova tune. So stick around.